Welcome to Manufacturing Talk Radio, your everything manufacturing podcast, with host and veteran manufacturing industry expert Lew Weiss and co-host Amy Niklas. Make sure to check out our catalog of 800 previous shows on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you're listening. Now, let's get into the episode.
Good day, everyone. This is Lew Weiss from Manufacturing Talk Radio. Glad to have you all here. I'm here with our regular Cliff Waldman from New World Economics. And Cliff, welcome back, and give us a little intro into what we're talking about today.
For 10 days in April, a divided and somewhat troubled world looked up, and they saw a remarkable journey taken by 4 remarkable astronauts, 3 Americans and 1 Canadian, going further than any human has ever gone before in space. And I'm comfortable saying that Artemis II ushered in a new era of space travel, many exciting plans coming from NASA. But while this was developing, so was a global, not just the US and Canadian, but a global space industry. And we want to examine what that global space industry is looking like, how it's growing, how it's impacting the global economy, how it's going to impact our economic futures. And for that, we have an excellent and up-and-coming expert in the global space economy, Oğuz Karasu. Oğuz completed his doctorate in economics in 2023, focusing on the economic impact of the U.S. space industry through quantitative and qualitative analyses. He's currently a postdoctoral research fellow at the Saïd Business School. That is the way you pronounce it, right, Oğuz? Saïd? At the Saïd Business School. And he's also a co-convener of Smart Space Class for the MBA students at that school as a teaching fellow. He teaches about the space economy, space finance, and sustainability issues related to the space industry. His research themes have included thus far international space projects, space-based solar power constellations and their economic impact, solar flares and their economic impact on the global economy, Earth observation companies and new business models, data centers and their potential economic impacts, new battery technologies and economic impact on both space and global economy, launch industry, and reputational issues on governments and companies. His main research currently focuses on the UK space industry and its economic impact, which has enabled him to build a strong global network within the space sector. He also serves as a strategy and investment consultant for space companies and related industries. For space companies, he provides economic impact analysis through quantitative and qualitative data analysis. For other startups, he helps their strategic plans to improve companies' pitch decks for investment rounds. In addition, Oğuz founded the Space and Economy Alliance, which is a non-governmental organization based in the United Kingdom, which facilitates outcome-focused workshops between space companies and other sectors. Oğuz, welcome to the show.
I thought it would be about the space industry more than myself, but
This is only a 30-minute show, so I'm glad you didn't accomplish more things because we've probably run out of time.
well, thank you so
welcome
much.
Welcome to the show. Thank you. And
Let's start. I mean, the global space industry is a complex one, to say the least. Let's start with a few questions just to give our audience some basic perspective. First of all, when we're talking about the global space industry, how big is it and how fast has it been growing?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. Thanks for your kind invitation and also introduction. So, according to the current numbers, the latest year, 2025, was calculated around $6 billion, the size of the space industry. But as an economist by heart, it is we don't really know how they calculate the actual size of space industry, because yes, space industry has launch, satellites, ground stations, etc. But overall, direct and indirect impacts, I believe, there are bigger than that.
What comprises the industry beyond what you just stated? Is there any hardcore manufacturing, heavy industry that's being planned for? I know that they're talking about crystal growth in space is a significant potential, as an example.
Absolutely, and there are other examples like producing like medicines in microgravity, or like other related like pharmaceutical or agriculture related products, like they've been tested in space. But that's the main problem in calculating the space industry's size. So how you do classification makes everything different. So there are like we divided the industry into two, basically, like upstream and downstream. So upstream, it's easy to calculate because it has launch industry, as satellite production, like Earth observation satellites, communication satellites, etc. But the downstream economy is bigger than that, because once you have those technologies up there and ready, those data is actually like related with many other industries, and every day we hear and discover many other new relationships with other industries. So that part is a bit unknown, and I think it's more important.
Nobody doubts that it's a very innovative industry just by its nature. It's a very innovative industry. Can you just give our audience an example of some of the newest, of the latest space-related technologies?
For sure. Like I can say space-based solar panels is one of them. It's a concept still. Starship is the like one of the I think biggest part of the new technologies. The commercial space stations. Like there are currently, I believe, 4 companies in the US who are working on their own commercial space stations. Other than that, I think for me, the most critical one is the device-to-device communication satellites. Basically, like we will be able to use our smartphones without using the cell towers on Earth. So we will be able to communicate via satellites directly. And imagine, like there are the latest number was around like 25-30% of the entire Earth population has no direct phone or internet communication. That means that part will be able to communicate with the rest of the world in rural areas, for example, and they will be either become a buyer or seller. So the entire economic system will change.
In many ways, the real reason I asked that question is for the next question. A lot of R&D in the space sector, space industry. And for the benefit of our audience, one of the important things about R&D in any given, particularly in a very innovative industry, is something called spillover. So the R&D often in very innovative industries doesn't just benefit that industry, but it benefits many industries surrounding it. And this is the kind of analysis that economists often do. So, Oz, I'm going to ask you, how much R&D spillover is there from the space industry to other industries?
That is like $1 million question, right? So everyone is after this question.
Maybe 1 trillion.
Maybe it will be 1 trillion. You're right. Yeah, definitely. So thanks for mentioning about spillover. NASA has been cataloged over 2,000 products since 70s, and they call them as spinoffs. So if you search on Google, like if you ask like for spinoffs, like there will be a very nice web page will be show up, and then you can see like all kind of products have been produced or discovered during space projects. So, and just like you mentioned, they have like very direct impact on different industries, like microwaves, like memory foams, heart batteries, many like aluminum foils, that's like many others, like they're countless. And I don't really know, as an economist, I've been thinking about this for the last 8 or 9 years, but we don't really know how we can like calculate this indirect impact on other industries. And yes, they become part of our daily lives, and we tend to forget where they originally coming from, right? So we don't really know the impact, but I believe we will see more and more products like this will be part of our lives.
To Cliff's point, one of the topics that I have heard, and I've done some personal research on myself, and that is solar energy and solar energy transfer. Can you speak on that point about solar energy transfer from, let's say, the moon to Earth?
Sure. We did a research on that and on its economic impact, actually, because there are so many rumors around about solar panels from space. There are current technologies have been improving about this possibility. But the main problem is, I mean, technically it is possible to beam the electricity from space to Earth. But the main problem is launching that kind of big constellation to space. So that's why many space-based solar panel companies are waiting for Starship's success. So without Starship kind of like a big launcher, it is almost impossible to get them there. So that is the main problem right now. Other than that, it is technically possible, and it's been tested to send an electricity to Earth.
I've heard them talking about data centers here in the United States, which nobody's really happy about having a data center in their backyard, much like a phone company or electric company or the water company. What we're talking about is a data center possible on the moon without perhaps the intricacies of sending up a massive manufacturing plant to the moon?
Well, there are two major challenges about having data centers on the moon. So first one is, like you said, sending them to moon. You need definitely Starship kind of launcher. So you need like very big launchers to send constellations to the moon. The second biggest thing, which no one really talks about this a lot, is the moon dust. So the moon dust is a major problem. Whatever you will have on the moon, you have to find find a solution to get over that, because it's very sharp, it's tiny, it's not like sand. It can get into human bodies easily, even though they don't expose directly, which happened to astronauts before, and it took like 2-3 weeks to clean from their body, from their immune system, after they come back to Earth. That dust is also a problem for those kind of technological devices as well. So whatever we want to build on the moon, we have to consider these two major challenges.
Oz, let's get into a key question related to the microeconomic characteristic of the space industry. You can imagine, and I'll admit this relates to a little bit of work that I've done on the industry. You can imagine two sorts of players in the global space industry. You're often producing big and manufacturing big products. So you can see a lot of big dominant firms, that kind of oligopolistic structure in the industry. For the benefit of our viewers, an oligopoly means that 3 or 4 companies dominate the industry. But because it's extremely innovative, I'm just constantly innovating. You can also see disruptive entrepreneurship new companies coming in that are taking advantage of the new knowledge that's produced weekly and disrupting the market. How would you currently describe the balance between the two, between the big market dominating players and the innovative, market disrupting entrepreneurs? How does that balance currently look in the global space industry?
Well, looks like it is more like benefit of the private players, private companies, but that's the complexity of space industry, right? I mean, the main demand is still coming from the governments. And it has to be, because the governments, they built the industry from the beginning. Since the 50s, 60s, the public is actually funding all those space-related projects directly. And they have sometimes direct, sometimes indirect benefits out of these. Nowadays, we see more private players, private companies, because governments want that, because it is for them the easier way of getting those technology, those solutions. looks like we will see more and more private companies will join this race, we can say, because at the same time, we should consider these technologies as dual use, right? I mean, Starlink, it looks like an innocent technology, which is, but at the same time, it is open to dual use. Like military can use that directly. So this is kind of like for both sides. So yes, we see like more private companies, and that changes the current ecosystem actually. But they still highly relying on the demand coming from governments.
Regarding the global aspect and the global economy, there's basically only 4 or 5 countries that are involved in the global space economy. Is only 4 or 5 countries. Based on the technology that's evolving at a rapid rate, is it conceivable that we can bring in other countries into the fold to help grow the space economy, space manufacturing quicker, number one, and two, for perhaps some of the lesser countries to be able to share in the $6 trillion event to make it 20 trillion, 30 trillion quickly, more quickly, and perhaps to solve some of other global issues like poverty and so on.
Well, it is very.
That's not a loaded question, by the way.
No, it is a great question, and it's really hard to respond. But as an economist, we always think about percentages and also like graphics. So I believe there is a graphic about about this issue, and it is like we can say for one side is international collaboration, and other side is national security. So when I teach about space economy, I say there's a balance between that for every other country. And if a country decided to be more closer to the national security, they have to avoid or ignore the international collaboration. So you're right. I mean, that's the only way of doing these kind of projects easier, faster, with other international players, which America does that actually, or any other country. But of course, the political disagreements change this balance in time. So I wish we could see more international collaboration nowadays. But looks like many countries are only considering their national security concern.
Well, to follow on from Lew's question, what countries outside of the U.S., of course, what countries should we be watching for in terms of being up and coming players in the global space network? What countries are going to be the big space economy players of the future?
Well, there are 3: China, and China.
Okay.
China is coming. China is already here. And I think that's why America is, in terms of collaboration, international collaboration, let's say, they're more protective against China if we compare their approach with the 60s, 70s, in the past. So America was more collaborative with Soviet Russians.
Right.
During Apollo era, during space station era, etc. Even nowadays, they use Russians Soyuz rocket to go to ISS sometimes. But with China, it's not possible in terms of international collaboration. Looks like.
All right.
So China has its own its own space station. That's the only country on Earth. They already have very capable rockets, launch solutions. They're not reusable yet, but they're working on them. And they just announced, I think a couple of months ago, they want to send 100,000 satellites. So I don't know how they will do that, but if this will be happening, I think we will talk only about China for the next 5 years.
I think they want to create traffic jams up in space like they have in Beijing and Singapore.
Well, satellites have gotten smaller, have they not? I mean, the satellite technology has favored smaller items over time. Is that correct?
It is correct, but at the same time, like that means we will see more traffic. I mean, in orbit, and like managing that traffic is also a job. And there's no international system. I mean, like there are like ITU rules, etc. But everyone is, voluntarily like doing that. Like if they won't collaborate, if there will be problems, I think we will see more crashes between satellites, and we will see more space debris. So which is going to be a big problem for our future as well.
I have heard and read about whispers, call them, about both India and Japan getting a little bit ambitious, shall we say, with their space programs. What are the prospects for, an Indian space program that's going to have a significant impact on the global space network?
So, of course, these countries, like in different regions, right? So, and once they improve a technology like launcher, like building a spacecraft, building satellites, etc., they also help the other countries in their regions. So, like, for example, if India has a technology, like a country nearby, they won't go to Europe or America, right? They will go to India for their solutions to buy and use. So, and same for Japan as well. So these initiatives actually increase the options for other countries at the end of the day.
I'm going to go step really way out off the rails on this one. Do you see perhaps that the global space industry could be the mechanism to perhaps create global peace?
I wish.
Now, I told you at the beginning that we don't talk politics, so we're not going to talk politics. The idea, though, is could it create a brotherhood, a global brotherhood, by the use of a space industry?
So when I teach about space economy, and when we talk about the the human habitats on other planets, like for example Moon, Mars, beyond, I always try to enrich my students' imagination. I say, okay, like imagine you're there, okay, you're on Mars, and you will miss like visiting your village on Earth, right? I mean, if you are away from your hometown, even right now, you miss something about there. You want to go visit your family, have a coffee, just like visiting. So, or you will want something from there. You will ask your mom or your father. It's like say like send this to me, send that to me. So we like even though we will be able to establish these habitats for the future, we will still need the connection with Earth all the time. So what I say, and imagine you went there, you're on the Moon or Mars, and something terrible happens on Earth. Like, how are you going to stay there sustainably? Right. It is impossible. So you have to reach the peace on Earth first to be able to establish sustainable human habitats anywhere around the galaxy. So that's a must. And I think it is a great opportunity for us as well. Like competition, yes, we understand, like we improve more technology, etc. But there's no end in competition. So either we will destroy, which I think that's the only way, right? I mean, if you will continue compete with each other until the end, either we will destroy Earth or we will destroy like each other. So I mean, there is no end, and I think there is no need to end this. As an economist, I also always try to balance yes, we need to be efficient, we need to like develop things for sure, But at the same time, we need to keep what we have here on Earth. Like, we need to secure our like nature, our Earth, humanity, etc. So without balancing this both, I don't think it will mean anything.
Oh, so, let me put, in many ways, you've already answered this question, and that's goes to the quality of our discussion. But I'm going to pose it to you anyway, because it's always at least in terms of Americans, it's always on their mind. We just had Artemis 2, and the usual discussion, in spite of everybody's excitement about it, the usual discussions come up about the cost of manned spaceflight. And it's at a time when affordability is high on the political agenda. People struggling to put food on the table, struggling to keep a roof over their head, and we're spending billions and billions to send people out into the moon and pretty soon beyond that. So the cost of manned space travel, thus, is very much on the tips of many tongues, at least in the United States. How would you, okay, we agreed that there's a cost. How would you, in many ways you have, but how would you address that? What we have to do is put the cost against the returns, the cost against the benefits. The costs, yes, they are there. It is expensive. What have been the returns that have justified those costs?
It's a great question, Cliff. Honestly, bringing food to the table is the most important thing, of course. But today, we live in a world with high technology, and we rely on this high technology for our daily commitments, for our daily lives, for our daily economic activities. So whenever I speak with people who are not aware of space economy, it's like they ask what is space economy? There's no economy in space, I tell them, okay, let's imagine. I think I like imagining things. So I say let's imagine. And I say, okay, there are around 12,000 satellites around the world. Okay. And if we turn off all of them now, what kind of life, what kind of day we will have? I cannot withdraw money from ATM because they're connected with satellites all the time. I cannot find my way back to home without GPS, right? I cannot call taxi from my app. There wouldn't be this much flights around the world because they all rely on satellite communications, etc. It's there are many things. So these I'm not saying this particularly for Artemis 2, but for every activity in space industry. And Artemis 2 kind of projects are part of this industry, because once you start developing products, technologies, solutions, when you do innovation, you actually improve all the other high technology related sides. So this is not one or other. This is not let's only invest into satellites. We have to do that all together, because if we say only let's improve satellites, let's not consider about the launchers. If you won't improve your launch systems, you won't be able to have a sustainable and efficient space industry. So this all highly interconnected with each other, and these kind of technologies will definitely have direct, indirect, and also induced impacts on our daily and economic lives.
Perhaps one way to reduce costs by some percentage is to get government out of the way and go totally privatized.
And that's happening more and more, right?
Yes, it is.
That is, I think, one of the solutions I can say. But the nature of the business requires government's involvement, and this is part of the cost, let's say, because not just America, but many other countries, they don't want to rely on only one company or only one solution for certain things. Let's say, for example, SpaceX, right? There is SpaceX, but there's also Blue Origin. There's Blue Origin, but at the same time, NASA improves their SLS for long trips. So I think countries want to like improve their options. So when there is like a real need, so they wouldn't really stuck on one option.
The $6 billion industry as it is now, however reliable that number is, what's the potential? Or is it limitless?
I think it's for 2025, by the way, it was, I think, 600 billion. But for 2035, World Economic Forum has done a study about the size of space economy, and they said they estimated around $1.8 trillion.
Got it.
So we don't really know how they estimated this. This is kind of like rational, expectations, because like if we calculate the overall growth with the like regular percentage of like improving every year, so it's around that anyway. So it's not like an exponential growth, but like I said, the indirect and induced impacts are the I think most important parts. We cannot really calculate them, and we cannot really measure the impact. So I think we will definitely see more and more activities related with space, but how to keep that sustainable, how to keep that efficient without harming the nature and without harming the existing like system, that's the question.
Just one more question from me, and you can't have a conversation about anything these days without talking about AI. So what role is AI playing in the evolution, the economic evolution of the global space industry, or what role will AI play in the economic evolution of the global space industry?
Well, AI is actually part of space industry already. So, and it will be. So when I spoke with like computer scientists in the US, they say like the next 50 years definitely will have like a high impact on AI from space projects. So because like not just like using in like computer level, but AI will be used in spacecrafts as well. Like I said, space is an industry, has impact on different levels on different industries. And without AI, without quantum computing, without nuclear fusions, etc., space doesn't mean anything. And without space, these industries, these new technologies doesn't mean anything either. I believe we will see like more connections in the future. Like for example, like data centers are now like a kind of a rumor again in orbit. Whether we will see them or not is also another question. But I believe we will see more and more interconnections with AI and space and other related high technology.
It's an interesting answer. I was asking a question, impact of AI on space industry. But there's just as much of a reason to ask impact of the space industry on AI. The evolution of AI may be very much impacted by what happens with the space industry. Do you agree with that?
I completely agree.
Okay.
Well, I was a fan of Captain Video and the Video Rangers back in the 1950s. And I found this, and I'm still a space nerd. I really thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Before we wrap this up, do you have any final comments?
I think we covered almost everything. So I really appreciate your questions, your time, your enthusiasm. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Very good. Cliff, any final comments?
Oğuz Karasu, you gave us your time. You gave us your expertise. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again for joining us on another episode of Manufacturing Talk Radio with hosts Lew Weiss and Amy Niklas. Before you head out, make sure to subscribe and leave us a review. For more information about the show and the manufacturing industry, head over to mfgtalkradio.com. That's mfgtalkradio.com.